Hello, my name is Emily. Thank you for joining me today. I'm a homeschooling mom to 3 children, and I actually homeschool them in French in the Waldorf style. And I've had a few people over the years ask me for French resources, so this is a video for you. This video could also be useful for parents who are homeschooling in French and French-speaking families. So stay tuned. I might do a French version for mes amis francophones. I'm going to go through a few of our favorite books. I hope that some of these suggestions will be helpful, and I will try to explain the level of French required both as the parent reading the book and also some tips for children who are listening. So I'm going to start with my absolute favorite. Because this might turn out to be a long video, but one of our favorite series of books is called Mimosé and Sam by Caton is her name. And this is the first one that we got. I believe this is the first one that came out. It's called Mimosé et Sam à la recherche des lunettes roses. So Mimosé and Sam who are searching for the pink glasses. And inside you can see that it is like a cartoon with little writing. So that's why I think that this book is a really good option for children who don't speak French. And the writing is at a good level, but the sentences are simple and kind of short and sweet, and there's a lot going on in the pictures to follow along and keep the child interested. It's also a really funny story. It's kind of like quirky and funny. They're just helping this little taupe, or in English, a mole, find her pink glasses that she lost. And it's super funny. It's one of our favorite in our family, and I thought that this would be a really good one for children who don't have a lot of French. And of course it's a series, so this is the second one. I got it in softcover. I will show where these are available. You can get them online at Renaud Bré. It's basically the Quebecois equivalent to Chapters, like a bookstore. And here, this one is called Basilic en panique, basil in panic, and basically there's an animal or someone has been taking pieces out of the leaves of basil, and their Mimosé and Sam are going to help Basil figure out who that is. And again, it's in these beautiful pictures and like not too much wording, so, and a kind of like a very lively story that moves pretty quickly, so this can keep kids interested. I would say like 4+, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds will all love this book. This is the third one that came out. It's another hardcover. I just love the hardcover. And it's about, they're trying to fall asleep basically, and they're asking the people who live in the garden to help them give suggestions for falling asleep. And I find this one maybe a little bit less interesting, although my girls got it from the Switch Witch this year, and they keep asking for it to be read, especially my 4-year-old. I think it's because now we like the characters, and it's also good for fall. And I find this one maybe the least interesting of the 3 books, but still the images are beautiful and the characters are funny. There is another one coming out that is a winter version, and it's on its way out. I saw that on the Renaud Bré website. Okay, next. These are also going to be recommended. They're probably geared towards younger children, but if your child has been brought up in kind of like a Waldorf style and appreciates these images and the artwork, the level of French is relatively simple, or at least there's not too much wording in here. And they're poems too. These 2 at least are poems. You might recognize these by this publishing company, Iona. I believe they were initially written in Dutch. So they're translated into French, but the French is pretty good, and they have nice rhyming. And I think you could go and look through the pictures and see, oh, who is grand-père, the grandfather, and who is écureuil, the squirrel, and souris, the mouse. So you can speak about the seasons, and you can kind of do some vocabulary, like seasonal vocabulary words based on these books. And the images are absolutely beautiful if you don't know these little books. And these are available from Paper Pipit. They have an online store, and their physical location is in Thornhill, Vaughan. And I believe also there's 2 other bookstores in Quebec that are online that you could probably get these from. So that's Du Printemps à l'été. The illustrations are by Lidwin van Geffen, and the text is by Pierre Leinhard. Okay, next, these ones are books you might recognize because they are some very well-known stories that are simply translated into French. And I think this is a great way to read or introduce a new language to children, because if they know the story already, they might be more open to kind of sit and look at the pictures and listen to the French. It can be really hard sometimes for children to hear another language. They just want to understand right away. But if they already know the story, then it can be read to them in French. I would say this one is I Love You Forever. It's maybe not a typical Waldorf one, but I just love this story. And the French in it is pretty simple. I think if you know the English story, then you can sort of use some English words and then use some French words and mix it in for a while for your child. But I think this one is kind of more simple type style French for the parent reading. This one is nice, Grand-mère Terre et ses enfants by Sybil von Offers. This is a very well-known book in the Waldorf world, kind of telling the story of the seed children. And this one is fun because it rhymes. So even though the child might not be understanding, at least there's kind of a rhythm and a rhyming to the words. And the level of French to read it is not too bad. What's fun with this one is that there's the names of the flowers. So like personnage, myosotis, that would be snowdrop, and forget-me-not, and so you get the names of the plants in French. And I think for a lot of the families I know who do a lot of gardening with their children, learning plant names in different languages is some really fun vocab to work on together. And yes, the level of French is not too bad. But if you're like a close friend of mine and you need help with reading or pronunciation, that's something that I could definitely help with. Okay, so then we have this one, Olaf au pays du roi hiver. I think it's again, they actually don't have an author. They just say the publisher. I think it's called Ollie's Ski Trip or something like that in English. It's originally in either Dutch or German, and this is another well-known Waldorf book. The writing in it, there's a bit more writing, so here we're getting to more writing, but I picked this one out because it exists in English, and so it could be fun to get it in both languages, and to, for example, read like the first part in English and then some of the dialogue in French, and to interchange some of those things. King Winter, Roi Hiver, to learn some of the vocab around, skiing, and things like that. Could be an option. And then I have this one, Le Kugler aux Pommes by Nenke van Hitchem and illustrated by Marianne van Zeel. I believe this one is another one in Dutch. I hope I'm not wrong with that. The images in this book are so beautiful. If you don't know this book, they have it in English. It's translated into many languages as well. This one also has quite a bit of writing, but if you can read it in French, I don't believe it's a little bit tedious in terms of French. It's a bit of a higher level. But again, it's if you know the story, then you get like the French translated version, and you can switch out some parts. And if, as the reader, the parent, you already know the story in English, it can be easier to read this version. And so you can kind of simplify it, you know, like tell it kind of in English and simplified version, throwing in different words. Like for example, c'est extraordinaire, said la jeune femme. When she saw le panier de prunes. So you can start with like very simple things. All the objects that she's exchanging, those could be said in French. All the things that you see in the picture could be said in French, and you'll be able to find the vocab in the text. And it's such a lovely story. Another thing, so these are the Grain d'Or little booklets. They're kind of like a magazine. They're quite old, these ones. I believe they're from the 90s. Maybe not, yeah, 1998, you see. So these ones, I got these from L'Etoile. They might even be available at Paper Pipit. You can ask her about these ones. And I will post all those. There's like 4 different locations to get these books from online in Canada that I know of. And you can also access the French website for some of the other books I will share. They say up to 7 years old, but I would say if your child is not a native French speaker, then it could be from ages 7 to 10, especially if they're used to Waldorf-like stories. So here, this is a really sweet story about a little ant. The images are beautiful. The font is big. This French here is quite simple. La terre tremble, la montagne s'écroule, le vent passe, le nuage s'en va, le soleil brille, la neige fond. So it's pretty easy, and that would be really great vocab for children. There's other stories in here, and these ones are nice because they have a little song, a hand poem, and the songs are pretty simple. We've done these before. They're pentatonic, and so the child can learn to play them on their pentatonic recorder. So I've used these a lot with my children, and I think these would be a great resource for a parent trying to bring some French into their child's life. Now this is getting a little more advanced in terms of the level of French. These are the Fanette et Philippin magazines, and they come out every season, so every 3 months. This is the fall version. I have the year 2020 and 2021 here. And these are, I mean, we love these. They have, I would definitely say, a more advanced level of French. These are from France, and there are even some crazy words that come out of them I'm learning. But I absolutely love the images, and there's always a song and a craft, and it's very beautiful. This was more for French-speaking families. Bonjour, bébé Théodore. Okay, lastly I have this little pile, and now we're getting into an even more advanced version of French, especially because these books I don't believe exist in a translated version. So as the parent, you have to have a pretty good level of French to be able to understand them. But I will share them anyway. They could be an inspiration of a level to get to. This book is called Le Grand Cœur de Madame Lily, and it's written by Gilles Thibault, and the illustrations are by Irene Luxbacker. This is a Canadian book written by Québécois, good old Québécois. And this is one of our favorite stories. We should actually read this right now because it's great for fall. And it's about a woman who sings songs to children in a park to make them feel better. And the images in this one are my favorite. I've actually looked up other books with this illustrator, And I found them, but nothing is as good as this book. This is probably one of my books with the best illustrations that I've ever come across. And it's just a really, really beautiful story. I suppose the French is not too difficult. Let me see, I'll read it a little bit for you and then you can like figure it out for yourself if it's at your level. Un jour, tandis que Madame Lily réparait un ourson en peluche, elle entendit le petit Jérémie pleurer sous une balançoire. So there you go. And yeah, as you can see, the pictures in this book, the illustrations are just so beautiful. So this book is called Le Grand Cœur de Madame Lily, the big heart of Madame Lily's big heart, basically. And then these 4 books are by the same publisher called Belle Émeraude Édition in France. And these 4 are made with needle felting images by Celia Portail. Yes, it's all the same illustrator. And the images in these books are incredible. These books are worth getting, even only for the images and making up your own story or just learning vocabulary and trying, working your way through some of the text. The text is not too difficult, but still, you need a decent level. And here this is about a bee that goes into a poppy and she discovers the different fairy life that help the poppy grow, so the gnomes, and then there's the water sprites, and then there's the light fairies, and it's just, the images are just absolutely incredible. I think my children like to listen to this story just to see the pictures because it's so beautiful. So let's see, how difficult is the French? I'll read a part for you. Mila se mit à battre les ailes comme les sylphes, mais il n'y avait bien sûr aucune petite étoile dorée qui en sortait. À peine avait-elle fait connaissance avec les esprunelles de l'air et de la lumière, que déjà elles s'envolaient toutes ensemble dans une grande étoile rayonnante. So it's up there, but again, you could have some, take some of the vocab out. Once you get the gist of the story, maybe simplify it. And again, if you're one of my close friends watching this video, that might be something I can help you with. The pictures are just worth getting the book. And, I'm missing one here actually. So that was called Mila l'abeille et le coquelicot au royaume mystérieux des esprunelles par Nathalie Valette. So it's Mila the bee and the poppy. This one is good for fall. It's the grandfather and the fairy, and this is a beautiful story about a grandfather who dreams to meet a fairy. And again, the images are just incredible. I believe this one could be a little more simple in terms of the French level, and it also has a little bit of rhyming to it, which can be enjoyable to read and enjoyable for the child. But this is probably our second favorite. Leia's here with me. What do you think? I'd say this is maybe our favorite. There's another one about a butterfly, which I will also recommend. This one is possibly our second favorite in a tie. This one's great. This is another one that's good for winter and Christmas. Again, the images are, oh, baby's not happy. The images are really, really incredible. It's it's a good solstice story. So we like to read this story at solstice, and it's very beautiful. The level of French is relatively advanced, but again, once you know the gist of the story, you can pull out some of the vocab, and it's worth it just for the images. These ones could be a little bit hard to find. I'm trying to think where I found these, either on l'Etoile website or directly from France, and they're expensive to ship over. It would be really nice to be able to get these more easily in Canada, but yeah, I still highly books that I have. If you need more information about any of these, let me know, and I'm really happy to share them with you today. Okay, great. Have a good day.